Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down another huge weather pattern change that'll be impacting the United States this week. This will bring an extensive cool down to much of the United States, severe weather over the next several days, and perhaps some flash flooding in some locations. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's begin with what's happening across the United States today. And we'll first begin with the high plains, and this is an area that we're actually watching severe weather that has been ramping up over the last couple hours across areas like West Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, even back through the Central Plains. And over the next several days, this activity will start to shift a bit further off to the east, and will actually start to begin to ramp up a bit more in the southern and central plains. And we'll talk about more on this later in this forecast, but as of today, damaging winds, large hail, and even maybe a couple tornadoes will be possible. And this is all due to a low pressure system that is centered over the Rocky Mountains, and this is what's actually going to be giving us that huge cool down across much of the country. This will really push through areas in the Great Plains as we go later into this week, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it'll eventually impact areas along the East Coast once we get into this weekend. So again, a big fall cool down is on the horizon. This will cool down areas below average for much of the country, and again, we'll talk about more on that here in just a moment. Otherwise, we have some shower and storm activity back up in Canada. We have a high pressure system that's on the east coast of the United States. That's going to give you that clockwise spin, which obviously is giving a little bit of convection up this direction in the upper Midwest. A little bit of shower, maybe a couple storm activity, but overall it's nothing too crazy. But again, this high pressure system down in parts of the southeast and eastern United States is responsible for the much warmer air that is ongoing across much of the eastern tier of the United States. But I have good news for you. This will be moving out over the next several days. So if you're looking forward to cooler weather, it's on the horizon. All right, let's talk more about the weather pattern that's happening across the United States and what is to come over the next several days. And to look at that, we're going to look at the jet stream. As of right now, we have that massive low pressure system that is just west of the Central Plains. It's over really the Rocky Mountains as of right now. Here's your jet stream, overall meridional. We don't have any crazy like flat jet stream here. Meridional basically means that we have a lot of curvature. And then back over here to the east, we have a high pressure system, which again is bringing the heat across much of the eastern tier of the United States, and as well as drier weather. That will all change as we head into Wednesday and Thursday, as we have a deepening trough. This will actually be really extensive here, and that's going to allow for showers, storms, and a strong cold front, strong northerly winds coming out of Canada. What that'll allow essentially is much cooler weather to come out of Canada. Strong northerly winds during this time of the year does promote more cool temperatures. Once we get into Thursday into Friday, this jet stream starts to ramp up over parts of the Midwest, which this is again a very strong jet stream. The jet stream overall winds are very strong, which usually does mean, or at least indicates, that we have very good coordination in the upper levels, which usually will lead to cooler weather. And then once we go into Saturday into Sunday, this moves off to the east, and we're going to see that impact across the East Coast as we head into Sunday. We're going to start to see that cool down really start to ramp up there, where it is very likely below average temperatures will be there as we head into next week. So some good news there again if you're looking more forward to the fall weather, which is definitely coming here. And another tool that we can look at are the temperature anomalies, and as of right now we have well above average temperatures for much of the eastern tier of the United States. Literally the only exception is down in Florida, where there's been a stationary frontal boundary bringing endless showers and storms. We've had upwards of 10 inches of rain over the last 7 days in parts of Florida, but again, things are going to change over the next several days. Notice this by Friday. Strong troughing, or really deep troughing over parts of the upper Midwest, will allow for strong northerly winds, and this will all be coming out of Canada. So we're going to get a huge cold blast across central and northern plains. The European model actually takes an interesting approach to this, which I don't know if this will happen, but we're going to see. As of right now, it's actually showing now that we're going to see a stronger cold air mass go into parts of the southern plains like Oklahoma and Texas. This actually could drop high temperatures into the 60s in parts of North Texas going into Saturday. So this might be something to monitor. It's just one computer model, but it's actually been indicating that a little bit here over the last 24 hours. So we'll monitor that closely, but notice as we go into early next week, we get a very strong northerly and westerly wind. This will allow for very cool weather across much of the eastern tier of the United States. That's a big change, by the way, from what we've seen over the last like 4 or 5 months. We really haven't seen a whole lot of this, at least on the east coast of the United States. The northeast might be a bit of an exception. And then going into next week, it looks like that heat will return, but it's a little bit uncertain again, really past this weekend. The age-old question, what does this actually mean for the temperatures? So going into tomorrow, the high temperatures across the country really vary everywhere you look. It's going to be a little bit cooler in the western northern plains. Notice down in Texas, it's going to be in the low 90s. And in the upper Midwest. In the Midwest, it's in the 70s and 80s for high temperatures. Notice as we go into Thursday, this is during the afternoon hours, we're going to see temperatures much cooler in comparison to tomorrow. So overall, again, we're going to start to see at least a gradual cool down. Going into Saturday, I think will be the coolest day across the United States overall. Look at the low temperature Saturday morning. Many areas in even the central and northern plains dipping down perhaps into the low 30s. We could actually see some frost in some areas, so monitor that very closely. Even the high temperatures going into Saturday afternoon, 50s across the Midwest, so it's going to be pretty chilly in those areas. Here's the official forecast overall. So this is as of right now. Low temperature Saturday morning, more likely than not to be below freezing in some areas in Minnesota, perhaps even in Wisconsin and back into Nebraska. We could see some temperatures below freezing. During the afternoon, this is the current forecast, upper 40s in some areas in Wisconsin, as well as in the Michigan Peninsula, and as well as back into northeast Minnesota. Back down in South Texas, by the way, we actually might have some areas even in the 70s down there. So again, very good news overall if you're looking forward to some cooler weather. Really, the downside to all of it, if you have any plants up, especially in the northern plains, there could be some frost. So definitely, again, monitor your weather very closely. All right, let's talk about the severe weather for the next several days. Beginning with today, overall, the risk has already begun. We're watching for damaging winds, hail, maybe an isolated tornado across two slight risks. We have one in Nebraska and then one back down in parts of the high plains. That's back down in New Mexico and as well as West Texas. Really not expected to impact any huge population areas, but if you're anywhere in those areas, make sure you're watching your weather very closely because again, damaging winds, large hail, and again, an isolated tornado or two are all possible today. Going to tomorrow, this threat does shift off to the east. We're watching from the northern plains back into Texas. It literally goes from Canada into Mexico. It's a very large area. Overall, damaging winds and large hail are the main concerns. We might see an isolated tornado or two across this slight risk area. So again, monitor your weather very closely. Personally, I don't think we're going to see anything too out of the ordinary here, but definitely make sure you're monitoring your weather very closely just in case anything does really start to ramp up. Overall, going into wacky weather Wednesday, we do have a marginal risk of severe weather in the southern plains, damaging winds, perhaps some isolated large hail, maybe a brief tornado possible, but I'm not again seeing anything too crazy either as we go into Wednesday. The one thing I would say that's crazy going to Wednesday is the rainfall we could see across parts of the southern plains. This is Wednesday afternoon. Lots of showers and storms are expected. We even could see a line of storms develop. This might be something to watch for that could provide a damaging wind risk, but overall it's going to be going down to the south as we go into late Wednesday into Thursday morning, and then heading into Friday, things really start to clear out across the southern plains. But look at the rainfall rates. We could very well get up there. Look at this, upwards of 2, 3, maybe even 4 inches of rain. Wouldn't rule out an isolated location in parts of northeast Texas being upwards of 5 to 6 inches of rainfall. So definitely something to watch for there. The temperature trend overall going into next week, below average temperatures are expected for much of the country. Really a large population area from the Midwest back through the southern plains into the southeast United States from Sunday the 8th until Thursday the 12th, which again is October. Precipitation, though, on the other hand, will be a bit below average for much of the country. That's going to range from the Midwest back through the Mid-Atlantic region. Along the Gulf Coast, right now, it's kind of a 50-50 chance whether it will be below or above average, but slightly leaning toward the above average precipitation for next week. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.